Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How you guys doing?
We're doing awesome. I have a question for you. You can off a cousin or you lose one of your French bulldogs, and it's not your favorite cousin. Who you picking?
There's a couple cousins I really don't like. And I'm kind of facing that dilemma right now because my oldest bulldog, my oldest Frenchie, Ernie, I'm going to have to put him down within the next couple of weeks. So I'm trying to figure out a plan of how I'm going to go about it. I'd like to bury him in the backyard, and my next door neighbors have made a headstone for him. So I'm trying to read up on how to do that properly.
All right. So definitely the cousin.
Yes.
The Chicago way.
No question. And our sympathies, because I've been there. It sucks because the dogs are so important in your life.
Yeah, this guy's been a great guy. He's been super, and he's kind of helped raise the other two I have, and he'll definitely be missed.
Our network coverage starts at 5, and then Bears and Chiefs at 7:20 right here on ESPN 1000. Tom, what is your letter grade for the offensive line this preseason?
Incomplete, because I haven't seen the group of guys for enough snaps in order to really get a feel of who, what, when, where, and who. I mean, who is going to be in what place. Braxton and Darnell are going to be the tackles. Kevin's going to be the left guard, but what are they going to do at center and right guard? Do they feel that Coleman Shelton, who I think has played the best at center and has had the most snaps to get Caleb into a comfort zone? And then what is the health status of Ryan Bates, and where is Nate's mind at right now? If Nate's confident and he's ready to go for 17 games and it's not going to be an in and out type of role, then it's probably Nate, Coleman, Kevin, and then Braxton and Darnell. And I'll give you a grade 3 or 4 weeks into the season because I haven't seen enough of that group together to even formulate a grade.
In terms of looking at a game like tonight, and you're a football guy, your whole life has been dedicated to this sport, and you watch tonight, there's no Caleb, there's no Mahomes, there's no Kelsey, there's no DeAndre Swift or DJ Moore, whoever. There's still really cool stories to watch. What is something that tonight you really want to see?
Which one of these guys that are getting an extended role to play in the modern day NFL preseason that's going to make the team because of that? We haven't seen Noel Sewell play at all throughout training camp, and at 6'2", almost 250, he's been a good linebacker. But I can't even say it. Amen. He's been a good number 45, and Carlos Jones Jr. has been a really good linebacker. So, one of those two guys may have an opportunity to make the team. And then you look at guys like Daniel Hardy, because they haven't had any Jacob Martin since the first day of training camp, who they thought was really going to be able to take some snaps at the outside defensive end position. We've got to really learn a lot about Daniel Hardy, and he's played well, and he's deserved the chance to make the team. And so someone tonight is going to be able to get an extended playing time and make the team. And then who's going to be the third quarterback? Do you want an experienced backup like Rippon, or do you want Austin Reed, who may have a higher upside? And then you got to make a choice. Do you think Velus Jones Jr. is really going to be the guy, or do you want Tyler Scott, or do you even think maybe Ian Wheeler deserves the opportunity? So it's those kind of stories that I definitely have interest in.
Tommy, Waddle was on with us yesterday talking about Velus Jones making the team. These are his thoughts. We want to get your response.
I don't. There's so many things about this crew and what they've done that makes sense to me. And look, I'm nothing against the kid. He's not really a kid. He's almost my age, but
you call him sir.
Yeah. I think it's like we've seen enough, haven't we? Like, this is my concern. I don't think that if you put him in a game as a wide receiver, you're going to get from him what you would get from somebody else. And I think if you put him back on kickoff returns, which these days, based on what we've seen and by a lot of people's assessment, it's a glorified running play. Who's more equipped to get more out of that play? Velus Jones or Khalil Herbert. To me, it's Khalil Herbert. So I just don't, maybe in a different life, in a different organization, things would have turned out better, but I just don't know why the emphasis on keeping Velus Jones is there. I mean, I understand he was their first draft pick on the offensive side of the ball, but, we were told this is going to be a really hard team to make this year because the talent has been upgraded, and I agree with that 100%. Look, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time if he steps in and becomes a difference-making returner or gives them a spark in certain ways.
So the thoughts there from Tommy Waddle. What do you think of that, Tom?
I like his assessment because, you think of Tyler Scott and Colin Johnson, who had a really good Hall of Fame game, who's got a lot of size, almost 6'6", and we saw what Tyler Scott was capable of getting beyond the defensive back, and hopefully it would have converted into a touchdown if the defensive back didn't grab him. And then with Velus playing in the running back position, he's primarily just been fed sweeps. And you can't do that. I mean, because then you're just going to have the defensive coordinator react accordingly, and you're going to limit the success of what Velus is trying to offer you. The best punt catcher on this football team is Dante Pettis. And then they also have DeAndre Carter, if you want a kick returner, and as T. Waddle and mentioned, Khalil Herbert, and really any of the running backs could go back there and do it. So, has he earned his jersey already? I don't think so. Would he enhance the opportunity if he played on multiple special teams and was productive more as a wide receiver than as a running back? Because I think you could take anybody. You could take DJ Moore. You could take Rome Odunze. You could take any of these guys and put them in an I formation, throw them a quick screen, throw them an end around, give them a couple handoffs, and they could probably get the same production out of the opportunity that Velus has. So I think he's one of the guys that's on the hot seat. And maybe they're trying to feature him in multiple positions to make him more trade possibility.
In terms of the backup quarterback spot, that's obviously Tyson Bagents. In the number 3 spot, is that we better have a veteran there? Brett Rippon's got 6 years of experience, or Austin Reed, an unsigned kid they got for $5,000 in his signing bonus, and maybe he goes to be a developmental guy that they feel they could develop. How, A, do you think they handle it, and B, how would you handle it?
I'm always a young guy. I like bringing up developable guys. You kind of know you have enough tape in the, investigation box about Brett Rippon and what he can do and what he hasn't been able to do. And then when you look at Austin Reed and what he's been able to do on a college level and how young he is and where he could possibly go at 6'2", 220, he fits the template of a good, thick-sized quarterback, a young arm. And so, there's a lot of positions I'm like that, Cap. I would rather go for a young guy that his development is ahead of him, and I think he could probably help the quarterback room and learn a lot from Shane Waldron in the initial stages of his NFL career. No offense to Brett Rippon, because he's been a model guy out there in training camp, showing up every day and playing well. But maybe today, I think Austin Reed's probably going to get the entire second half, and we'll get a better indicator of where he's at this stage of training camp.
It's Bears and Chiefs at 7:20. Tom Thayer, along with Jeff Joniak, will be on the call right here on the home of the Bears, ESPN 1000. Tom, last couple of days we've been talking about Tom Brady's comments. He was at the Fanatics Fest that took place in New York City over the weekend, and he talked to Stephen A. Smith about rookie quarterbacks being forced in today's NFL. What you hear from Tom Brady, we want to get your response because I don't think you've talked about this yet.
There used to be college programs. Now there are college teams. You're no longer learning a program, you're learning a playbook. And the program is ultimately, like at Michigan, for me, that was a pro-style program. 5 years, I got to learn how to drop back pass, to read defenses, to read coverages, to be coached. I had to learn from being 7th quarterback on the depth chart to moving up to 3rd to ultimately being a starter. I had to learn all those things in college. That was development. Then I went to New England and I was developed by Coach Belichick and the offensive staff there. I didn't start my first year. I think it's just a tragedy that we're forcing these rookies to play early. But the reality is the only reason why they are is because we dumbed the game down, which has allowed them to play. It used to be thought of at a higher level. We used to spend hours and hours in the offseason and training camp trying to be a little bit better than next year. But I think what happens is it discourages the coaches from going to deep levels because they realize the players don't have the opportunity to go to a deep level, so they're just going to teach them where they're at.
You heard from Tom Brady there of Fox. What do you think? There's a lot of things he said there, but dumbing the playbook down and also force-feeding rookie quarterbacks to play in the NFL versus when you played.
Well, I disagree with him dumbing down the program because ever since John Gruden became a head coach, he's made the terminology for the quarterback so difficult. It takes you a year or two to master the terminology to understand what it says to every player with the built-in audible, and then how that is their assignments fit into those 10 guys if you call the second play rather than the first. So the dumbing down part, I don't agree with. If you listen to Peyton Manning, he says he believes rookies should play because the only way you get experience is to get playing experience. And Tom Brady's super fortunate that even though he played for a defensive-minded head coach, that he had McDaniel in place for such a long period of time, that he was learning the same offense year after year after year and then refining it and perfecting it. The one thing that some of these young quarterbacks are up against, if you look at Gerard Mayo, if you look at Dan Quinn, and they both have new quarterbacks. And so if they go and they develop the quarterback that they've been lucky enough to draft this year, that offensive coordinator is going to be on the head coaching trajectory. And that's my same worries about Shane Waldron. And so the guys that have had the luxury of being in the same system, Patrick Mahomes, for example, they get to refine it and perfect it. Offensive football is repetitiously learned. So, like I said, I disagree with the dumbing down because I actually think the terminology has got more complicated than when I was here, and it was I right, move to Brown right, toss 28 near GO, or West 88. That was the extent of our play calling. West was the direction of the protection. 88 was the route for all the receivers. Ready, break. Now it's a paragraph per play. And it's, there's more than just a key catchphrase for everybody. And it's even more complicated for every quarterback that has to recite that after hearing it in the helmet. That was the one thing that was encouraging me to see on Hard Knocks this week is when Caleb had interference in his headset, he was able to piece together what the play was being called, even though the connection device was being interrupted. And that was really probably the biggest sign of encouragement for me where Caleb is going, rather than some of these quarterbacks would have to take a timeout and then point to their helmet as, look, I didn't hear the whole play, so I don't know what I'm saying.
In terms of the Hard Knocks show the other day, Jay Moore and Hoodie and Shay and I have all watched, and I'm sure you have too, where Caleb's headset's going out. Here comes the equipment guy. All right, I turned this one down. Let's see if this one works better. The narrative that was being painted was, he struggled the first 4 possessions because his headset wasn't working and he had to work through that. Is that overblown?
No, like I said, I'm glad that Caleb was able to get through that, but the helmet guy is Andy Kokalis, and that's his sole job, is to make sure the quarterback's helmets are perfect. If you got to hand them one right after another. And, those communication devices are important, especially for the young quarterbacks. And I likened it, and I was talking a lot about that last year with Justin, and it's almost like Name That Tune, where you play a couple of notes on the keyboard and then you can name what the song is. Right. That's the way quarterbacks need to get to. You need to hear the first 4 or 5 words out of my mouth, and then you can take it from there. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, in the signs of growth of a quarterback, it was encouraging for me that Caleb was able to get through it. And I don't think the struggles of the throws were because of the interruption in the listening device. I think it was more of timing, balance, and just some inaccuracies early that, gave those guys, I think, 3 consecutive 3-and-outs.
Correct.
So, Tommy, going back to your career against the Chiefs, 2-1 against the Chiefs, as I can see here. Can you recall your game? I'm going back to the 21. It was 31-28, in which the Bears, you guys went 6-1. You beat the Chiefs. They were 1-6. Do you recall this? This is 1987.
Yeah, I mean, I only recall just because of the history of some of the defensive players they had, and it was always did we play them in Kansas City?
It was at Soldier Field. Looks like
Soldier Field.
31-28, a win for the Bear.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of it. I remember a lot. I mean, there was a game later in my career when Dan Saliamua, a big defensive lineman, played up there, and he was a big body, tough to move. And Jay may have missed the game, and it was always not as easy going in there playing if Jay wasn't playing center. I think he had a bad ankle.
And then a 1917 win for the Bears in Kansas City. Jim Harbaugh was the quarterback. 13 for 20, good for 98 yards. You know what happened? And you know what happened, Kap? Running the football, Neil Anderson, still underrated. Neil, Tim Worley ran the 11 for 59.
Wow.
Ironhead Hayward, 6 for 18. But then you got Keith, like a Tom Waddle, 3 for 19 in that game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Earlier I've been listening to you guys for a while on the app, and you were talking about the villains of college football.
Mm-hmm.
Now that Harbaugh was a villain, no matter if you like him or not. And I know Kap is not a Notre Dame fan because I was listening to you a couple of weeks talking trash about him. Notre Dame has always been the villain of college football, because I think if you sat and opened your lines and took a poll, you'd have as many people that don't like him that do like him. And so they've always been, a villain of college football because of their non-attachment to a conference and in the way Kap says, as we carry ourselves.
Especially the fan base are so freaking arrogant over there.
All right, you don't have to.
If Jimmy Johnson doesn't go for 2 like a moron in 1988, Notre Dame doesn't win the national title. Kick the extra point, tie, get out of there, and they're the champs. Still bothers me.
What
was your last year as a Bear? 92?
Yeah, 92, and then I played 93 with the Dolphins.
Because Waddle told us a story that in, I think, the year David Gordon made the field goal to beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame for BC, I think that was 93, but maybe I'm wrong, that he and Chris Zorich were huddled over a TV. The Bears had a game at Kansas City, and they were going through walkthrough, and Wani was furious that they were watching a TV rather than paying attention to the walkthrough when David Gordon banged through the field goal. You weren't there for that, right?
No. I was down in Miami watching it there, probably sitting in a nice lawn chair at 80 degrees, enjoying a fun year of football.
Hey, Tom, have a great call. Again, the last preseason game, the last dress rehearsal as the Bears take on the Chiefs. 7:20 is the start. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it as always.
You're the best.